I say it's a revolution, I'm called a conspiracy wacko in Minnesota. Well, I'll tell you what, that's because I'm a property rights guy, okay? That's what makes me radical. You know, the real radical writers are the Rockefeller Republicans who are helping put this whole system into place too. The new mission of education in Minnesota states to create a seamless system of education and workforce preparation for all learners tied to the needs of a competitive marketplace. Notice it does not say free marketplace. China has a competitive economic market. They compete with us in the economic system. What's missing in China is freedom. You will not see the term free market anymore in any government document that's tied into this system. You will not. I can't find it. The only time I've ever seen it is in the history standards when they're talking about what has been. The new term is competitive economic marketplace. You don't have to be free to compete in a state-planned economy. This is our blueprint, and it tells us that based on federal and state research where job growth is anticipated, St. Paul secondary schools will consider 6 career clusters as the focus of their small learning environments. Now, in Minnesota's northwest region, this translates to taconite. So we're advertising people going into taconite mining production. That's the first mining step towards the production of steel. And they advertise with taxpayer dollars. Would you like to earn $65,000 per year in wages and benefits? Go into taconite. And all these high school kids are saying, hey, that sounds pretty easy for 65 grand. You know what the problem is? Right now, northwest corner of Minnesota has 30,000 laid off taconite production workers who'd love to be earning $65,000. This is government planning 101. Doesn't work. In fact, you can see here on the government's own projection that taconite is a dying industry in Minnesota. But what do we really need? Burger flippers. You see, we need labor for service industry now. But this source is the same source that gave us the taconite brochure. You see, in a state-planned economy, the left hand often doesn't know what the other left hand is doing. They're confused. It doesn't work. Can you imagine if you were able to predict this kind of future to retrofit your children for the future needs, how brilliant you'd be at the market? You know, these folks can't even get that right. How are they going to retrofit our children for what they perceive the future needs are? I want you to hear, though, how the left really believes they know the future. This is State Senator Steve Murphy.
What we're seeing right now is that about 80% of all the jobs that we're going to have in the future, you're going to need some sort of technical expertise. About 20% of the jobs in the future will require some sort of 4-year education or beyond. We're talking the doctors, the lawyers, the administrators, the engineers, those types that are changing are in the labor pool. The people that are actually doing the work, people call it menial labor. I don't. You know, the people that work in factories, people that use their sweat and toil, you're going to be splicing wires for AT&T or whoever. And that's where the majority of the jobs are going to be in the future. And we need to have our students aware of that so that they don't make bad decisions after high school.
Can you believe what you're hearing? He knows the future. And the concept here is it's a waste of state resources to train someone beyond their station in life. This concept came out of the polytechnical system, by the way, of Eastern Europe. This was the idea that the state will train you for your specific station in life. Now, the best education was reserved for the kings and queens' children, those who would one day grow up and rule the nation. You see, the problem is, in America, we're supposed to be a self-governing nation. All of our children are the princes and princesses who will one day grow up to rule this nation. And they deserve that broad-based liberal arts academic education, whether they're a truck driver or a doctor and lawyer. Thank you very much, Steve Kelly. This is where we're at in the name of educational progress.
What we're seeing right now.
Now, we call this the knowledge society. Peter Drucker, how many have heard of Peter Drucker? The New Business in the Guru Industry. What book they don't talk to you too much about is his book, Post-Capitalist Society, where he explains that in order to move from capitalism to a knowledge society, which by the way is marketing language for a labor society, education in the post-capitalist society has to permeate the entire society, business, government. You recognize the pattern of the triangle. Post-capitalist societies, he says, requires lifelong learning. That term, by the way, was first coined by Vladimir Lenin. Lifelong education through the polytechnical system was his philosophy of education. Now, this is our recent document. This is just put out by the Republicans in 2002. This, of course, once again, says putting it all together, and of course has the three-circle graphic right on the front as puzzle pieces. And it explains to us that the bottom line here of the outcome indicators, call it outcome-based government, is to finally get down to something called sustainable family income. Now, this has to do with the transference of wealth. It's simply not fair if somebody has more wealth than another. So we're going to define the terms of a sustainable income, and government will be in charge of giving that to you. The document actually says, never lose sight of equity. Remember the new definition of equity that was put up on the board by one of the previous Michaels? In our collective efforts to increase the overall economic vitality of Minnesota, we must not lose sight of equity or fairness based on need. Do you recognize that term, by the way? From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. I'm going to give you a peek ahead to the curriculum, because this is what they're teaching the children in second grade. The entire purpose of second grade social studies is to transfer loyalty from the family to the government and teach them about sustainable economic consumption. Needs and wants is what they call it. What are needs and wants? Well, it says here that needs are basic needs that all people must have. Wants are things people would like to have, but they can do without. The concept here, as it grows up fully in the entire scope and sequence, is it's not fair for you to have your wants met until the entire world has its needs met. This is sustainable economic outcome-based government redistribution of wealth philosophy. Growing up a little farther into 7th grade, it becomes gross national product in the global government or the global economy. This is out of a Macmillan mainstream 7th grade textbook. Although the countries of the world are all linked by interdependence, not all of them share equally in the world's riches. Well, who's hogging all the wealth in this map that is based on size depending on gross national product? You see, this is a Marxist concept of the economy, that there is only a finite amount of wealth in the world and we have to share equally. The problem is, in a free society, wealth is created and grows and expands. But this is not the sustainable economy. Which, just like the environment wants to suppress development, the sustainable economy wants to suppress the creation of wealth to be managed through our human resource generation workforce investment councils. By the way, like I said, Minnesota is one of the states on the cutting edge. So was Texas, so is Maine. And this is fully embedded in the Maine education system. The book explains that Maine also is designing a school-to-work system offering structured technical training pathways for young people. Here's the quote that gives you the 80-20 that you heard our senator say. It's all the same. Every state has the same talking points. And then your governor goes on to tell us that the residents of Maine are increasingly aware that our education system must prepare students to meet unprecedented society and economic demands. To do so, all students must have the knowledge, skills, attitudes that are outlined in Maine's Common Core of Learning. And as you all well know, that is now called learning results. It's all the same thing. It's just repackaged under each new administration to make you think there's a new plan. It's all the same. And it's exactly the same in every state I've ever been in research. It takes me 5 minutes to research a state because I know what I'm looking for. And I can find it so easy. By the way, that's all I'm going to deal with the school-to-work system. Our video that is Senator Michelle Bachmann and I is Guinea Pig Kids, available here or at our website at edwatch.org. Moving on, the transformation of education